Second. Now joined by Sean Keeler, the Denver Post. Sean, it's funny, I promoted our schedule on the website that's the umbrella of what we do and like own the company, and then we have our podcast. And one of the responses to my guest lineup was, oh, Sean Keeler, he's a Deion hater. I know where this interview is going to go.
I was throwing a curveball. I was going to ask if you guys are getting a piece of that Big 12 equity money.
Oh, no.
Are you going to get a piece of the league?
Hey, in fact, I may undermine the Big 12, contact them, and be a part of this show. The heck with the Big 12 surviving or not. What were your thoughts when you saw that? What were your thoughts?
No. The All-State 12. Because we're going to get emails telling us.
That's right.
And phone calls telling us, strongly worded, this is no longer the Big 12 Conference. For all your references, refer to this as the Papa John's 12.
There you go.
Or the Domino's Pizza 12.
That has kind of a ring to it, that Papa John's 12.
It does. You know, I talked about this with somebody. I'm a child of the Big 8. You guys are coming at this from Texas. I'm coming at this from Iowa by way of Colorado. I was born in Ames. I'm a Big 8 baby. So, and I got to tell you, it's just a number, and it's not even the right number. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think we're just kind of clean. I think that that ship has sailed 30 years ago. I think when those the Big Ten, for one perfectly great example of a league that will, never say never, that unless you hand them the keys to Fort Knox, they're not changing their brand name. They haven't had 10 since 1990. Does that sound right? That's Penn State. 91.
Yep.
So if the leagues haven't been able to count for a generation and a half, we're talking 35 years, whatever it is. So sell it all. I mean, it's coming. It's a matter of, it's not an if, it's a when. I actually I don't give Yormark credit for everything. I think he's built a better basketball league than a football league, frankly, from a relevant standpoint. He's built a hell of a basketball league. Chad Boyle's job, not get any easier. So he just looked at that and went, really? Really? You're going to do this to me now? I've put how many guys in the NBA? I've won how many, top 4 finishes in this league? Thank you. I know he's a Big 8 guy. He's a KU grad. So he kind of knew what he was getting into. But no, I think Yormark is fully where this thing is going. Maybe not in the brands he's picked up to add to this thing, but in terms of getting volume, in terms of football brands, if not quantity over quality, relative to what's out there, A, and B, selling anything that's not nailed down. I can't think that the ACC and then every other Group of 5 league isn't going to go down the road that the Big 12 is probably going to furrow first.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with you. If it works, then many more will follow very quickly, and we're already starting to see other leagues talk about doing similar as well. Sean, just in terms of Colorado, I know we're still a couple of months away, so we're not like in the heat of like the season's upon us just yet. But there's been this countdown now since last summer when it was announced that they were going to rejoin the Big 12. It's a unique league. It's a league that I think everybody's still kind of trying to wrap their head around because it's a bit of a mutant. There's more new teams than old teams, So
Frankenstein. It's sewn together from a lot of different pieces.
It is.
And now it's growling, and can we control them up?
Right, exactly. But what's kind of the anticipation level? What's the excitement level, or lack thereof, maybe for some people when it comes to Colorado being back in the Big 12 at this point?
I think you can trace it locally by the generation. Again, I've shown my age. I'm a child of the Big 8. I'm not going to say that I'm past 4 decades on God's green earth, but yeah. So, yeah, it depends on what look, isn't sports in general all about your nostalgia for when you were 12 or 13 deep down? Like, that's what you remember and treasure the most that way. So I think if for folks who remember the last time CU was really relevant in college football, it was the Big 8, but it was kind of the Big 12. It was never this Pac-12 era for them was, we've talked about it on this show. It was about the faculty getting a hold of things again, and you don't want to make a Revenge of the Nerds parallel to, but there was a little bit of that. Of frankly, like, we're an elite academic school. Let's get with elite academic schools and make this work. And our alumni are all out west. And to be fair, they are. And let's get where the brains are, where the money is. And now they're like, let's get with the league that's going to make it. And here we are. As we've also talked about that and the evolution to get here. So people under 30 are like, Yeah, we'll see. They go they go to the newbies. They go, Cincinnati, UCF. What? Like you put it up on a map, and it's kind of CUSA on steroids a little bit than it is the Big 12 as we know it or started to know it. And if you're over 40, you're like, hey, K-State, I remember those games. Baylor, that sounds interesting. And, well, TCU, we've done that at least once. That's a nice campus. And it kind of depends on how old you are, is how you react. But everything, let's be blunt. Here's Mr. Deion Hater talking again. It's all about prime. I mean, everything here is about, everything here is secondary to his show and whatever he brings. So it's like, bring him on. You're all just cannon fodder for the prime reality show.
By the way, I'm a Big 8 guy too, as lifelong Nebraska fan, born in Omaha. But I sometimes yearn for those days, but that's been long gone. Sean,
we're dinosaurs, my friend.
Yes, absolutely. Well, I am. I'm 65. I'm on Medicare, for God's sake. So I'm in the middle of all that.
Look at that. No, I'm crawling to get there, brother. Hey, I'm coming on a 50-something from Sioux City, Iowa, brother.
There you
I'm
go.
getting there.
Well, so it seems to be quiet when it comes to Camp Deion in Colorado. I've seen a couple of things.
There's been some things here and there. Yeah.
I've seen about Shador and a concert and whatever was the truth there.
I know.
But
Shiloh in the lawsuit.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
I hate that. But no, you're right, Craig. There's been enough. Has it been a quiet summer, or has it? No, it will never be quiet in Boulder, Colorado.
It's never quiet with Deion. Like when you're kind of a walk-in entourage, or, I mean, let's be frank, it's a circus. The circus never closes. And there's your headline. There'll be the better headline. Deborah Potter called it the circus never closes, but it doesn't. Now, is it a little quieter, and is the silly a little sillier? Yeah, I've got a column up today at denverpost.com kind of about, can we bring this back a little bit from the whole Shador concert thing that really, frankly, care, and you should. If you're a CU fan, you care about the future of this program, whether or not there was a daddy ball requirement to go to the concert. By the way, no one has confirmed that. They've kind of hinted. I've had sources tell me, basically Lil Wayne played after the spring game. Shador did his single Perfect Timing as an opening act. That was not a coincidence, but they claim it was improvised. But someone who strings for Athlon Sports put up a story saying, sources told us, by the way, Athlon doesn't do reporting, so I don't know who this person is or where they were getting it from. And unfortunately, we live in a world of both AI and disingenuous report. I get accused of posting for clicks. No, that's not in my job remit. Yeah. But there are computers and bots where it is. Let's just be real about this. And aggregators where it is. And unfortunately, I think this has been a case of that. But really, the news is more interesting from a football perspective. And what people are kind of stoked about is this being the last full recruiting weekend before the dead period. They've got Julian Lewis, the USC commit here. They're going to make one. It's his last visit before the dead period. And they're going to make a pitch to try to get him to flip. And if they do, as I noted in the column, now you've got the one thing that would make me sit there and go, yeah, he might stick around in the post-Shiloh, post-Shador, post-Travis Hunter era, because they're all gone. Like, it's all about the build-up to this fall. But would he stick around? If you've got Julian Lewis and you've got Jordan Seaton, I think you've got two pieces that would make you stick around. So if they can get that flip here in the next 5 days, I think that would be bigger than anything that's come across CU's offseason in the last 4 or 5 months.
Yeah, that'd be massive. I'd imagine that's kind of hard for the fan base. I guess any fan base that's not Ohio State, Michigan, the usual suspects. If you have a successful coach, you're always worried about poaching. In Deion's case, he hasn't been that successful, but he's Deion. He's different in that way. So Is it kind of hard for fans to – are they just living in the moment basically at this point and hoping that the party continues rather than, falls off a cliff once the kids, move on?
Yeah. I think that's well put. I think it's – with Deion, you've got to kind of live in that – literally live in the moment because you've got a guy who could do anything. And anything, as we've learned in whatever 20 months into this now, I'm losing count from December of 2022. They all start to blur together once the train starts rolling. I mean, anything poaching is possible. Him running for governor is possible. Him putting out an album and suddenly Snoop Dogg is running out on top of Ralphie is possible. Everything is possible when Deion Sanders is your coach. So as opposed to, Iowa State, let's pick a good kind of middle Power 5 to good program. And what's Matt Campbell going? Boy, look out! That they're not. That's a CU peer. That's fair, even though Iowa State's kind of number 2 there in that state. No, they're not. They're worried about Deion not being here, but not because he's necessarily going to be poached, just because Smack and his business folks tell him we're going to try something else. Or wouldn't it be great if let's be frank, where should we do the TV show next?
Yeah.
Really, unfortunately, I think that's how these decisions get made to some degree. And especially with the kids gone, he's going to really more or less be a football empty nester. His daughter is transferred out. As you guys know, we were told very vehemently not to read into that. You can, but I don't see how you can't on the other level, because it was all, hey, let's bring everybody up here to the mountains and let's have a good time, which is a heck of a reality show, and they're living it and they're showing it, and we'll see. But are they going to want to do I guess it would be a season 4 after 2025 without those guys here? I don't know. I think on paper you would say no, but again, that's also what makes this weekend and some of those recruits, the prep recruits, mind you, not transfers, actual honest to goodness, old school, do it like you used to do it. Prep recruits are going to be here. When those guys start committing, then maybe, even in a poorer world, you hope you've got something that maybe has a little more staying power than 2 years. But right now, their class is 3 kids. That's it. And that is the smallest in Power 5. It's the smallest in the Big 12. And that's not a coincidence. And until they change that number, I think everybody's kind of like, let's party like it's 1999. There's a dated reference for us, folks.
There you go.
Well, Revenge of the Nerds as well. That was another one, but I got it totally.
I know.
Totally got it. Okay, so if this is whatever this turns out to be, this year we know Deion's there, Shador's there, Shiloh, the whole crew, Travis Hunter. They have had so much turnover, just like last year. As I'm sure you know, trying to put a preseason poll together with 16 teams is just a process. And
I did the ballot cut last week.
Yep.
I turned it in. I just literally went, this is too many teams.
yeah,
That was the first time it really sunk in and went, no, this is stupid. Like, if we're going to go the super conference route, division, let's just go back to that, please. Am I wrong?
No, I absolutely agree.
No, you're right. I agree. Yeah, I agree. When we all unveiled ours last week, so that's why we're getting to this question with you too, and I'm glad you answered it. At least still another question of it.
Yeah, it's an inexact science, first of all, but then you add in, more teams and you're at 16. I mean, we know Kansas State and Utah should be pretty good, and beyond that, it's anybody's guess. But with Colorado, a lot of fans feel like, hey, if they're in the bottom 5, 6, 7, that's too low. They should be higher. There's a lot of fans who think that having them in the top half, they're too high. You know how that goes. But I don't know what the heck to expect with them, other than there's some cachet in having the quarterback wide receiver combination they have. There's no doubt about that. It's one of the better ones, not just in the Big 12, but in the entire country.
Yeah.
Beyond that, it's a complete crapshoot, right? So what are the expectations sort of being talked about? What are you thinking about this team, and just kind of where is everybody's head at, and what they think Colorado actually will be coming up this season?
I think the fan expectation, the reasonable, rational, and there are fewer of those because the cult has kind of swept that away, where it's just like whatever Deion says, it's kind of scary. It's like, again, it's just scary. As you can imagine, I've heard from a few. I've looked up what a cult is, and they pretty much applies to 80% of CU fans right now, and 100% of the Deion fans online, especially on X, where it's a bit of a, boy, you need to kind of take a step back there and really think about what you do before you tweet, brother. But anyway, and they'd say the same thing about me, and they're the twins. So fine. But I think the rational expectations, and I think they're fair, they would be mine too, is a bowl team. I think if you play what we call the WL game, I'm sure you guys have, there's 6 to 8 there. There could be more if things are right. If somebody steps on Shadur's wrist, it could be 5 or less. I think anything that's not a bowl game would be viewed by us in the mainstream media who don't have paid access to Deion and his kids on a regular basis. I think that would be considered a disappointment both by us who are objective and by the cult who are not. Although they're not disappointed by anything. It's like, well, we went 5-7. Well, that was just the Lord's will. No, it wasn't. That was you. And please stop saying that, Deion, please. It's not about that. So I think that's a fair bar. I think you've got literally 8, and here's your headline. Deion Hater says they have 8-9 win talent. Yes, they do. They do on paper. I think they have a 4 and 5 win coaching staff, and I hope they prove me wrong. So let's do the math on that one. That comes out to about 7 and 5, doesn't it? I think if you split the difference there's a way to get there. And I liked that Deion has gone from saying on, or maybe it depends on who he talks to, and he goes on Fox Sports 1 and says, we'll be in the playoff. We're a playoff team. In a spring game, he looked at what he had there and said, I'm going to tell our super fan, Miss Peggy, we're going to get you to a bowl. We're going to get there. We're going to make that work. So we're moving the goalpost just a little, but I do think the bowl goalpost is more than fair for what they've got, but they've got to navigate a really, I guess, say tricky, but an interesting September if you pull that up, because I think it's home to North Dakota State. You can out-talent them. I mean, that's Deion's plan, is they're going to out-talent people. If I can outrun you, if you can't catch me, you're not going to stop me. Pretty simple. I mean, it's not simple stopping him because Travis Hunter's a top 10 pick. Shadur's a top 10 pick. So that's a challenge if you're North Dakota State. The problem is then week 2, they got to go to Nebraska, where now you have a little closer bar in speed and power in terms of the gap between the two. And then you've got to go to Colorado State, who you should be able to out-talent, but is going to be out for blood, and you're in their backyard where you've never played.
Right.
They're building open, I want to say 2014? That sounds right. Yeah, their stadium at CSU is hosting the showdown for the first time. And then the Bears come in for the homecoming. So, if anything else, by the time Baylor comes in, we're going to have a pretty good idea if CU is either really, really good or really beat up.
Yeah.
Based on those 2 rivalry games right before that leading up to it. So I think it's a pretty, if you play the over-under game, where most people have a 5.5, I lean the over there if you're allowed to. Maybe not on, depending on where that's legal in your part of the world. But a lot more things would have to go wrong for them not to win 5. I'd be more confident of them winning 7 or 8 than I would feel that they would win 4 or 5 again. I don't see 4 and 8 again unless you're 0 and 3.
Well,
if you're 0 and 3, then Lord, yeah. I mean, you're talking Armageddon. I mean, he could quit. I mean, he could just walk out and go, yeah, I'm done. The health, everything, this is not worth it. And then it's like, oh boy.
Yeah, and then last year the schedule just fell on their head because you had Oregon and Washington and USC and all those others. Yeah,
really good league.
Yeah. So my question then is this: if in fact I can't imagine a September like last year though, right? Because of how it started with TCU, Nebraska, and it just got like a train with no brakes, and it was amazing. And I watched them. I watched that game that was like into midnight against Colorado State, who had them dead to rights, and they just couldn't close it. Can we see that? We're not going to see that again, are we?
If they win in Lincoln, they could be 4-0. Yeah. Okay. I mean, I'm not putting your money. I might put yours. I'm not putting my money on that. But it goes back to what we said a couple questions ago. We didn't know what we were going to get in that opener at TCU. I remember being in Fort Worth, and Stuart Mandel is an old friend of mine, and he and I are going up in the elevator, and he's like, so what's going to happen? I'm like, they could win by 3. They could lose by 15. I don't know. That's the joy of this. I think we have a better idea what it's supposed to look like. Not being a huge fan of Pat Shurmur, or Pencil Pat, as I call him, their OC, I have my doubts as to whether that will be as explosive as what Sean Lewis's offense was, but it wasn't about Sean. It was about Shadur's comfort level, and they'll go as he goes, and we'll see how well that works for him there. But I think, there are a couple – I mean, I don't think 0-4 is there. I just don't see that. I mean, North Dakota State, I've talked to people up there. They're excited. They're not quite the giant killers they were. That's still a crazy game to schedule when you're kind of rebuilding, but that's CU. They like to be on TV, whether they show anything or not. And so I think there's enough there that doesn't worry me. And talking to North Dakota media where they're like, yeah, they'll bring it and they'll give them a fight, but I don't think you're talking about a FCS national champion level where it would be more dangerous if, for say, a Colorado State, who the talent level, again, the gap would be a lot shorter to get there. I just think there's too many NFL guys. Literally, not coaching. No, Deion loves he has an NFL staff, Warren staff. No, they have NFL guys on the field, and therefore that's going to be harder. But that's going to change when they get into league play and get Nebraska and see that side of it. So 4-0 could be crazy. I think we thought last year was crazy, and the difference between last year and this year is you have more home games. One. You have a league that probably on paper, as we've talked about, as we try to do these polls, isn't quite as deep. Certainly not in the quarterback department. As good as it is, it's not as good as where the Pac-12 ironically went out on, which is, again,
I agree,
kind of crazy because it wasn't a good league for it. The reason they broke up is it wasn't a good league forever, and then they ended up with three draftees, 4 NFL quarterbacks in one season. Or guys that would be drafted as upperclassmen or soon are to be, and probably more when we consider the guys who will be there in 25 and 26. Anyway, it was a really good conference, ironically, at the end as it died. It died on its feet after laying around for too long. Thank you, Larry Scott. So CU ran into a gauntlet where injuries, Travis Hunter, among others, and their depth, and the experiment, because this is still an experiment. Can we change 60 guys on a roster every year and turn it over like this and still be cohesive? I think their lesson learned was let's just turn over better guys or maybe from better programs and also look for better fits. That guys say that we just went for 4 stars and Florida State guys when we should have looked for 3 stars who we can't measure heart kind of thing. And that was good. I thought that was, having covered a lot of Kansas State and Wisconsin and Iowa, as you can imagine, I was kind of raised on a lot of those kind of try-hard guys that are developed can be better as a unit, certainly offensively on the line and defensively up front, than star rankings would matter. So I think there's some progress, at least philosophically, but it's still an experiment. You still don't know how that's going to work, how that's going to gel. I've had people tell me from the spring game that they thought the 5-star tackle Jordan Seaton looked terrible. I've had other coaches tell me they thought he looked great and he's going to be a star right from the get-go. I mean, the thing about Deion still, and I apologize for rambling, is it's still all over the map because they changed, to your point, so much that it's hard to get a peg until you got a body of evidence there. And then by the time you do, you might lose 5 guys to injury. So I try to find the truth in the middle there again, and that's why I see 7-8 wins there probably. But, I mean, anything 4-10 is on the table. I mean, you can't not put it there because so much could go right. And as we learned last year, if you hit a rut, so much could go wrong.
Yeah, and I think there's like 5 to 7 teams in the Big 12 that are in that same conversation. Sean, I know we got to go. Are you going to be in Vegas for the Big 12 Media Days?
I'm actually not.
Oh, okay.
Because and there's a reason. I'll put this on record for the Deion lovers. I was assigned to it, but I'd already scheduled something for my wife's birthday, which is July 8th, so I cannot be there.
Yeah, you better not change your mind. That's
a choice between Deion. Yeah. Hey, let's put this on the record for you Sanders, you Coach Prime head. If it's a choice between Deion and my wife, I know who I'm picking. I know who my boss is. And it ain't the guy with the gold jacket. It's the lady who's God. She's the boss.
Yeah.
So we will be at Disneyland the 8th and 9th celebrating my wife's birthday, but then I will be back on the clock. So trust me, we'll see everybody soon.
I hope to see you, man. It's great. Thank you for your time. Sean Keeler, the Denver Post on many things, Colorado. Kim Coulter, super.